Ladies and gentlemen, do I look like an enlightened being? Ladies and gentlemen, let me explain this to you. First, I want you to listen up. Did you hear that? I can Bible thump with the best of them. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. And the reason I can Bible thump with the best of them is because while I was attending a class from a gentleman named Norm Tolson in the year 1973 to move to a higher level of consciousness that is known as illumination or the Christ consciousness or the Buddha consciousness, or move to the level of cosmic consciousness, or move to the level to be able to understand the knowledge that sets in the Akashic records. Through different methodologies of meditation, I actually achieved what we perceive and call enlightenment. And when that happened, ladies and gentlemen, growing up as the good Christian boy in Howard Beach, Queens, in an Italian family, it's surrounded by 90% Catholics and Protestants, when I became enlightened, the only understanding I had about God, aside from what I was learning in Manhattan from Norm Tolson, was the Bible. Ooh, the Bible. And this book was supposed to be the end-all, be-all of God. Well, ladies and gentlemen, while I was in that state of enlightenment, I went to Our Lady of Grace Church and spoke with Father Finaro and another priest whose name I forgot, and told them that I was in a state of enlightenment and that the teachings they were professing through the Bible were not accurate. We'll leave it at that. However, what I also understood when you move into this state of enlightenment is that the Vatican itself is actually not what it presents itself to be, nor are the priests and or the bishops and the cardinals what they present themselves to be, aka intermediaries between God and man. That's just not true. Neither is the Pope. Neither is any public figure an intermediary between God and man. Man and God are one and always have been. But unless you move into that state of enlightenment to the next level, aka the cosmic consciousness, the self-awareness, what R.M. Buck in his book called Cosmic Consciousness describes that all the mystic masters have gone through. Buddha, Lao Tse, Mahatma Gandhi, the Henry David Thoreau, many of the other scholars from different philosophies, including Muhammad and some of the Judaic scholars. These people have reached a level of consciousness inside their head that moves them from the physical being or understanding of the physical realm into a spiritual level of consciousness that supersedes words, aka the words in the Bible. And being that I couldn't understand how people thought anymore, thank God Norm Tolson was there to save me from my own misery, because once I moved to that level of consciousness and started going around and talking about the superconsciousness and how Christ was the spiritually gifted being that just moved to a different level of consciousness, and it didn't have anything at all to do with the Catholic Church, never did and never will, everybody put me as an outcast. Moving past that, in order to prove that this happened, I stayed in that state of consciousness for several months, which is really unheard of. It was actually approximately 7 months. Very unheard of. Moving to higher and higher levels of consciousness and understanding deeper and deeper levels of the spiritual realm, I came to understand that the Bible was the Word of God, per se, written, but not the God that we understand God to be. You see, folks, what we perceive to be God that you believe wrote the Bible, is not God. It's part of a remnant society that has existed on this world for several thousands of years, several millennium, at a bare minimum back past Atlantis, but certainly this spiritual remnant society that wrote the words in the Bible, because they were in or on a level of super consciousness that allowed them to write these words and become what we perceive to be godlike. And then this remnant society, they left these phrases and words in the Bible for their descendants, so that they would know who these descendants were at all times. But moving past that, in order for the descendants to prove who they were, there were symbols and iconologies that went along with the Bible. Some of them were associated to Atlantis, some of them were associated with the Mayan culture, some of them were associated with the Incan cultures, because these were where the remnant of the remnant society spread out to different parts of the world. Well, eventually, they codified their existence by writing the Bible in its entirety long before we believed the Bible was written. And during that same period of time, they created an icon or a series of pictographs to prove that the words in the Bible were true to their cultural background. And what they did was they placed pictures of Egyptian gods, the Great Pyramid, Christian icons such as this entire green side of the $1 bill is an exact replica of the Ark of the Covenant. They placed Mayan gods on the end of the $1 bill, along with Egyptian type pharaoh gods that you see on the end of the $1 bill, whereas above that face that appears to have a face is what is known as a vulture's headdress. And this vulture's headdress that you see here, and the forked beard that you see here, is identical to the forked beard and the vulture's headdress that you see there, because this is an Egyptian aspect and one pictography, one piece of pictography that appears on the end of the $1 bill. If you look at it from a different perspective, you see the faces of men that are facing before and behind, aka what you are looking at in this respect is a picture of the six-winged seraphim that appears to be an oxen or a bullock, because these are icons that were placed by the different subcultures of peoples that existed for the last 10,000 years, perhaps million years. There is no way of knowing. This is why I correlated all of this information and placed it into a book that you know and I know I call Angels on the Ark by Michael Fazio. And inside this 1990-page book, I bring you, by utilizing the words in the Bible and the iconologies that exist on the reverse and obverse of the $1 bill, including what appears to be, at this point, Incan gods at the lower aspect of it. But if you turn it around, the faces seem to change, and it almost appears as if it is a squid or a cephalopod type nautical creature, because it is a cephalopod and nautical type creature. These pictographs were not placed on the $1 bill indiscriminately. They were put there to prove that this remnant society has been on this planet and has been ruling this planet since these creatures appeared in the ocean during the Cambrian age 330 million years ago, which means these creatures, or this remnant society, or this remnant race of beings, or this godlike beings that are posing as God itself, have been on this planet for 330 million years. Now, you may not believe it, but I have proof that I have given you in my book, including this vampire-like bat with a skull and bones on the nose of the vampire bat. And stop your videotape and blow that up to a full screen, and on that you will see a hog-nosed bat with a skull and bones, and now where the two orange lines meet, you will see a perfect depiction of an owl that is known as the great horned owl. Now, why is it that Michael Fazio has been able to prove all of these things, and no one else on the planet has ever come forth with any of these relatively what I call simple concepts? Well, I'll tell you why, ladies and gentlemen, because whatever it is that we perceive this God to be has allowed me to see these things, almost as if I was selected because I had the ability to see these things.